Hey guys, we are waiting for YouTube and Facebook to start up, and then we're going to start with the webinar. And this webinar is brought to you by BenQ USA. And I see that at the moment also YouTube is online. So Facebook Live probably is online. We are checking that now. Anyway, can you see if Facebook is online?
Yes.
Awesome. So Facebook is online, YouTube is online. Welcome guys, and welcome in our studio in Emmeloord. It's 6 o'clock. Yep, it's 6 o'clock because this is a special broadcast of Digital Classroom brought to you by BenQ and BenQ in the USA. So there's small time difference. And let's start the way that we should start, of course, with the bumper so you guys know what you're watching, right? And I'm back. Hey, so during the webinar, this is a more free version of the webinar. So normally with Digital Classroom, what we do is we do a photo shoot, I do retouching, I show you the lighting setups, I tell you guys everything about what I do, and after that, there's time for questions. Today is a little bit more free. What we're gonna do is we're gonna do light setups, but I'm also gonna tell you a little bit about how you calibrate your monitor and how you work with one of the most important tools for a photographer, light meter, and of course the color checker. Now, a lot of people ask me like, okay Frank, so calibrating your monitor, having a color checker, using a light meter, doesn't that take out all the creativity in your shots? It actually doesn't. What you have to realize is that they are just tools. They're like a measuring lint for a carpenter, or they're just like the hammer and a nail for somebody who, a carpenter, right? You know what I mean, right? Now, what does the light meter do? The light meter gives you the exposure for your model. Now, that's very easy because now you don't look like a total unprofessional photographer. So in other words, you take a shot, nah, doesn't look right, take another shot, nah, doesn't look right, take another one. You know what I mean. So by using a light meter, you take away that problem. What you do, you take a shot and the first shot is immediately correct. That's awesome. Now, where does the color checker come in? The color checker makes sure that your profiling from your camera, now listen to this, the profiling from your camera is correct. So your colors are correct. Now the most simple thing that you can compare to a color checker is actually a white balance card, a gray card if you may. So before every shot you take a shot of the gray card, you balance on the gray card and your color cast is gone. You would say awesome, right? And it is, because at that point you know there's no color cast in my images, the images look great, so that's it. The color checker goes one step further. On the color checker you see all these colors. So maybe, Annie, can you give me one of the color checkers? I'm still a little bit on the coffee side, guys, sorry for that. Oh, we have a lot of people online. Hey Marloes and Slatko, Geberg and Johnny. Cuckoo, I don't know what Johnny means. And Sergio, and we have Glyn Dewis online, my buddy. Hello, Glyn. So anyway, this is the color checker. Now, what you see is there are all these colors here. And these colors represent certain values. The cool thing is, when you know those values, you know how to set up your profiling in the computer. And you don't have to know anything about it. It all goes automatically. Your computer knows the values it should be. It knows the values it sees. And then it creates something called an ICC profiling. And that's very important because that ICC profile makes sure that red is actually the red you see here. And that green is the green that you see here. So in other words, without the profiling, you never know what you're gonna get. Red can be a little bit on the orangey side, which we Dutch people of course love because hey, orange is our national color. But in all honesty, it doesn't look nice on a picture. So the color checker. Now the color checker creates a profile again called an ICC profile. And that's not really true. So, and by the way, yes, Clem and Grunt Studios, this is a real live broadcast, so you're really live. So this thing creates a DCP profiling. That means that I always need Lightroom or the software that's delivered with it, but I need Lightroom to actually read the profile. Now I wish, if Capture One is listening, I wish there's a solution that's easy where you can actually use the color checker in Capture One. There is a solution by our good friend, our fellow Terra Tools ambassador, Maurice, and he created something, and maybe I can link that below, where you can use the color checker actually in Capture One, but it's still a lot of work. So this creates a profile for your camera, so your sensor. The other thing that's really important, and I'm going to show you that today, and that's going to be the first time I'm ever going to show this, so I'm a little bit nervous for that. The other thing what's really important is this. Now, this is a so-called color analyzer. Now, this is a simple one. We also have a more advanced one. That's actually this one. This is the Color Monkey. This is a spectrometer, so that meters the whole spectrum. And this one is what we called a so-called tree stimulus meter that uses gels, or in this case, glass gels. Now, if you use those analyzers, what they actually do is the same thing as with the color checker, only now it does it for the monitor. Now, why is this so important? On one side, one would say, you know what, Frank, I make my pictures for my clients, and my clients don't have a calibrated monitor, so why the heck should I calibrate? Well, yes and no. Now imagine this, you're used to seeing red as a little bit yellowish. You're used to seeing green as a little bit bluish. All the pictures you see on your monitor have that same difference. So all the pictures you see are actually for you perfect. Now you might know, and I hope that's true, that most professional photographers use calibration for the monitor, and they use something like a white balance card, sorry. So all those photographers create something that you see on your wrong monitor, but it still looks all the same. Now, if you have a photographer that doesn't calibrate, that doesn't use a light meter, that doesn't use this, that doesn't do that, and on his monitor it looks great, and you go to that wrong monitor with your client, it will look different. Now, that might be in your benefit because it looks like, ooh, that's a different look. But trust me, most of the time you will go like, that doesn't look right. So that's why it's very important to use these tools. Now, do they take away your creativity? Heck no. They just make sure that you have a base. The cool thing about having a base is that if you take a picture outside, inside, under fluorescent lights, under tungsten light, under daylight, under whatever light, if you want to use your, I'm just saying something really weird. If you want to use your iPhone for that really nice accent light or that front light, you know what I mean, right? And all the time, your base will be the same. Now, why is that important? Well, listen to this. If you use software for tinting your images, now you know that when you tint those images, the effect will be the same wherever you shoot, whatever you do. So that's why that's important. Later on I'm going to explain something about the monitor, but first we're going to take the first shots so you guys don't see me talking all the time, because I know that can be a little bit boring. And of course when you see a model, that's way better than Frank, right? But first some questions. That's freaky, I was just watching Glyn. Well, you should be watching Glyn because he's awesome. And then of course switch over to me because, well, you're here anyway. So the other thing is, how long can you use a color checker? Now that's a really good one. If you use it in the studio and you're careful with it, so don't spill any Coke on it or water, or don't throw it around, you can use them for about 2 years. Actually, in the back, if you look really careful, let me see if it focuses. Yes, it does. Great camera. You see that it actually states you can use it for 2 years. Now, as soon as you open it up, those 2 years start to run. So it's a ticking time bomb. Bomb nowadays, sorry, bad joke. Wasn't meant as a joke, by the way. Just realized when I said it. So date first use. That is where you put in the date that you first use your color checker. And then after 2 years, you just go like, whoop, to color checker heaven. And then you buy a new one. Now, if you're out in the sun, you have UV lighting. That will kill your color checker. So if you have UV lighting and you use it a lot outside, one thing you can do is as soon as you take the shot with the color checker, do it really fast, take the shot, close it down. Don't put it on like, okay, just leave it on like this in the sun. Because then it will actually be destroyed in about maybe a week If you use it for a week, it will be gone. UV lighting is very, very bad. So 2 years normal use. Okay, do you always have to create a profile? Because I usually only use one color checker for getting the right white balance. What's the benefit of making a profile? Well, Johan, there are many different ways you can do. You can, of course, go the lazy way. Well, I have one camera, I have one sensor, so what do? I create one profile and that's it, and I'm going to use that profile all the time. All the power to you, works great. In Capture One, we actually use the embedded profiling because they're, in my opinion, better than in Lightroom. So I only do white balance. If I have a picky customer and I use different strobes, like for example, if I shoot Pro Photo instead of my Allengroms, I will actually constantly use that color checker. Now Matt Grindle is online and he actually tells you color checkers can be used to help fix color casts, such as the green of grass and trees reflecting on your model. Yes and no. Yes in the form from yes it does. No in the form of I like that reflection, because if I'm shooting with green of grass and trees, I want that reflection on my model. On the other end, if you're shooting for natural colors, make sure you shoot the color checker. Another question that I often get about the color checker, and we're going to show you that in a moment. If you shoot with, because we're going to use gels, if you shoot with gels, when do you use the color checker? Do you use the color checker with the gels on or with the gels off? Or don't you use them at all? This is a bit tricky, but listen to my train of thoughts. The train of thought is very, very simple. If you use a blue gel, you want that blue gel to be blue like the gel you use, right? Because that's why you bought that blue gel and not another one. What you do is you first do the color checker without a gel in front of your strobe. That's your base, you know, again, that base. Now you put the blue gel on and you shoot, and you don't use the color checker, you don't use the white balance card, you just shoot. At that point, the blue gel will do exactly the same thing when you do it again later, because you have that base correct. The other thing a lot of people ask me, like, okay, where do I do color balance? Do I do that on this one? You can. Or do I do it somewhere here? And this is where X-Rite probably will be angry with me today, because on the top you have these squares and you see a portrait, right? And underneath you see a landscape. Now if you look really closely, and I hope you can see that on YouTube, these two are actually a little bit more reddish. Now for me, if I do a color balance, I want accurate colors. I don't want reddish or I don't want greenish. I understand why they do it, for skin tones and for landscapes. I don't want that influence of color. So what I always do, I use these two or three. So on the bottom you have three. You have the pure white, never use the pure white, never use the pure black. Use something in between. So these three are perfect for your white balance. Now somebody will tell you, oh my, aren't those too small? Of course not. As long as you can pick on it, it's great. Okay, is it true you better not to touch the color parts? Paul, always keep your fingers away from these things for the very simple reason you have oil on your fingers. If you smear it on, you will destroy your color checker. So, are you guys ready for the first photo shoot? Now in between you can ask whatever you want. Just go on Facebook, go on Twitter, not on Twitter by the way, we don't monitor that, Facebook or the YouTube channel, and just ask whatever you guys want. But first, we're going to set up a photo shoot with our model, Rosa. Yeah, she's here. She's one of my favorites. I say that to all the models, but they don't hear that. But she's one of my favorites because the most important part for working with a model is that the model actually feels comfortable, right? So if you tell them like, yeah, we're going to shoot Rosa, I don't like her that much, I like the other ones better, that will actually not work because she will be a little bit more nervous. So my favorite model for today, Rosa. Okay, let me see first very quickly the questions. It can be useful if you want to change the color in the background to blue, for instance, and you shoot with an orange gel. Then you can use the color check. Then you can use the color checker. Am I right? Marloes, what's really cool, and this is something that we do a lot on location sometimes, is shoot the model with a green gel, and then because the model is green as Kermit the Frog, we actually we balance on the green of the model. That will be the new white point, and everything will be shifted. So the sky, everything that's white, everything that's blue, will actually shift downwards towards magenta. So that gives you a really cool effect. The color checker at that point isn't that useful anymore because you're working with very funky colors. But the white balance part is vital at that point because you can't do that by eye. Let me see, Fred and Ineke, but if you only use the gray parts, why not buy a cheaper gray card? You're absolutely right. If you never ever want to use a color checker for color balance, for creating a profile, get a good white balance card. But I'm a very, very big advocate for using these. Now, some people might say, Frank, you're shooting Capture One, you can't use the color checker, so why are you a big advocate? I still shoot them because I know if my client wants the accurate color, I will jump into Lightroom, I create a profile, and I give my client exactly what he or she wants. For myself, I use Capture One and the built-in profile. But today, I'm actually going to show you how to create a profile also for your color checker in Lightroom. So it's going to be a jam-packed episode. One more question and then we're going to do the photo shoot. Is it right you should use the color checker whenever you change lights in a shoot? Johan, very, very simple, yes and no. Again, if you're lazy, just take one shot because it's the sensor you calibrate. And then when you change your light setups, use that same setup. If you're like me, just shoot the color checker every time you change the lights. Now, during workshops, I only do it once or twice because we want to save time. When I do a commercial shoot, every time I change the lighting setup, even when I change backgrounds, I just shoot the color checker. And you know why? You never know when you're going to need it. And if you're going to need it and you don't have one, how are you going to get correct colors? Oh, by the way, one very quick tip. If you forgot to check shoot the color checker, you didn't have it with you, find one area that's neutral gray, balance on that and copy that to all the images in the shot. In the shoot, for the very simple reason. If all the images look the same, you can always tell your client, yeah, it was intended that way, I like this look. It's a little bit more vintage. It's not like we Instagrammed the shot, we just made it a little bit more interesting. And your client will go like, oh, I really like that. So if you don't use a color checker, make sure that all the images look the same. But with the color checker, it's just a little bit easier to replicate. Okay, Rosa, are you ready?
Yes.
I think I got too much sugar today. I go like the Energizer Bunny. So, hey Sergio, good day to you too. Okay, let's switch to our other camera so you guys can actually see what we're doing in the studio. And there we go. So we have our setup and I'm gonna quickly walk you through. We have a strip light and we have two gelled lights because today it's all about color. So let me switch over to my camera. Now there's a little bit of a color difference between the cameras because we didn't use a color checker this time. We normally also use the color checker video. Don't ask me why, but somehow something went wrong and we had to do some really fast rescuing of everything. So yeah, we didn't have time to do that. I'm so sorry. Okay, so let's set up the camera correctly for what I'm gonna do now. There we go, on the center. Okay, great. Rosa, yes. Can you please stand on the stage where you belong? Okay, I'm gonna start very, very simple. I'm just gonna set a strip light. I'm just gonna set a strip light on the model. So we have one strip light and all the other lights should be off at the moment. So let's turn them off. There we go, is that one off? Okay, and move it a little bit out of the frame, Kim, if you want. And can you give me the light meter, Daisy?
The newest one?
Yeah, the newest one. We always love the new toys. There we go. Okay, so as mentioned before, you always first meter the light. Now, why do you have to meter the light? Very simple, you want to make sure that you know how to set up your camera. So I'm now on 125th of a second because we're shooting in the studio. ISO 100. And we're gonna aim at our light source in this case. And we see a meter of 4.02. That actually means f4 and 2/10 of an f-stop. So let's raise it a little bit. So let's go up to 5.6, why not? Let's be dangerous. Okay. 5.6, great. So now I know that I have to set my camera on 5.6. which is pretty easy because now you know that the first shot you're going to take is correct. Now, one of the most asked questions is, where do you point that light meter? Do you point it towards the camera? Do you point it towards the light source? Or do you just pray? You have to remember, you don't point it anywhere because it's an incident meter reading. It meters the light hitting on your light meter. It isn't a reflective meter reading. So where do you put it? Again, sorry for the coughing, guys. We had a very serious airway infection, so I'm still battling that, but I'm getting better every day. So where do you point that meter? You actually don't point it anywhere. You hold it in front of the area you want correctly lit. So let's say I have the sun behind me. I have Rosa behind me. That's my son today. Hello.
Hi.
And I have my son behind the camera, so that's great. I have two sons, because as a Dutch person, I can make a different pronunciation between sun and sun. Yeah, that's really difficult. So let's say I have the sun behind me, and I want my face to be correctly lit. So what I do is we'll actually hold the light meter in front of my face and meter the light. Now, of course, the sun will always win. So my back of my face, my back of my head will be overexposed, but the front will be correctly lit. And I can shoot from that angle, that angle, that angle. It doesn't matter. So you hold it in front of the area you want correctly lit. Hey Frank, so why in the studio do you always point towards the light meter? There is a reason the light is on that side, because I want that side correctly lit. So that's why in the studio, I often tell people, if it's too difficult to remember, and I don't want to tell them that, so I just always tell people in the studio, aim towards the light source. That's the easiest way to remember. Okay, and in most cases it is. Now, let me see. So we're going to pick up the camera. Are you ready for it, Rosa?
Yes, I am.
Oh, I hope so. Okay. Let me change the ISO to ISO 100. It's still on 1600. Or an auto even. Okay, Annemiek, you can switch to the multi-view. You know how that works?
Yeah, it is.
Okay, cool. Shot 1. There we go. So now what you will actually see is that we have a light setup that's nice for the model. It gives a nice colory scheme. I'm just imagining stuff because it looks like nothing. I don't like this at all. It's, I don't know. Rosa, it's your fault. It looks terrible. It's always the model's fault, don't worry. How can we solve this? Okay, let me try something else. You have to do more. You have to be, I don't know what you have to be, but it has to be better. Okay, look a little bit more towards the light. Nose a little bit towards me. That's nice. There we go. You see, it's the model. Now, as you can see, by moving the model around, she will actually get a little bit more overexposed. So, I have to tell my model, stay, don't move. Stay in your place. Okay. But I love the posing. Yes, that's awesome. That's nice. Show the other hand, please. Show that you're complete. That's nice. Wow. I really like this too. That's awesome. So now I can see the nice shadow around the nose. I can see everything nicely. I like this a lot better. The only thing I don't like is the colors. I think they're a little bit too warm. So can somebody give me a color checker? Of course, we have a lot of those lying around. I always lose them. So then we have to buy new ones. Okay. Rosa, can you hold this in front of your face? There's only one thing. You have to hold it flat and you have to make a funny face, otherwise the software won't work. Awesome. Always works. There we go. So this is my new book, The Funny Faces of the Color Checker. Now the cool thing is, later on, if I just balance on this one, it will be great. Now I hear from a lot of people, they actually tell the models, make a funny face, otherwise the color checker won't work. So somehow I started a trend, I'm afraid. Okay, but still, Rosa, I don't know. You're such a beautiful girl, and the images don't do you justice. And today it's all about color your life, right? So let's do something adventurous. Let's do something dangerous. Let's do something that I've never done before. We stopped the broadcast. No, I'm just kidding. Okay, Kim, can you take the red gel and move it a little bit more this way? Towards me. Yes, and now aim it straight at the back. So at the back wall. Turn it, turn it, turn it. Yes, and now turn it on. Now, I always meter my lights, but I didn't do it now for the accent light because I don't know what I want. And this is the cool thing about having that digital Polaroid on my screen. I know exactly what I want as soon as I see it. So let me see if this works. Nice. I already saw it because I have an EVF. Yeah. Rosa, okay. You really shine. I love this. Now the cool thing is, because we don't use a grid in the backside, it's actually a good thing because it now reflects a little bit back on the model and you can see that nice shine around her face. But Rosa, I think you also have a more cool side. Cool side? I think you have a more cool side, don't you think? Okay. This is a little bit hot. Okay. So it's a little bit more devilish. Okay. So I think we need fire and ice, don't you? Okay. Don't you just love those pancakes that are hot and then you put ice cream on it and it gets really nice? Yeah, I like those. I can only eat them once a year because Anna won't allow me. But let's create something like that with lighting. So Kim, can you turn on the blue gel on that side? Ooh, let's see what happens now. Kim is our intern. She's awesome. Okay, and stop. Yep, and move it maybe a little bit that way. Yep. Oh boy. Don't worry. Okay, let's see what happens. Okay, aim it a little bit more behind her, because now you can see it's there. I want it a little bit more angled behind her. Don't worry. There are only 6 million people watching. Don't stress. There we go, that's nice. Okay. That's better. Now turn it down half a stop. So that's 5 clicks. Just turn the dial. Don't press anything. Yep. Yeah. Okay. There we go. This is cool. Nice. Now Rosa, can you shift your hair? So turn around really fast. Oh yeah, you can. Yeah, but then the other way around, towards the light. Are you ready? Yeah. 1, 2, 3, go.
Okay, wait, my face.
Yeah. 1, 2, 3, go. And another one. 1, 2, 3, go. Cool. Cool, I mean. Now we get a little bit more excitement. Oh, that one is out of focus. You have to do that one again. Exactly the same. So that one hair a little bit up. 1, 2, 3, go. Great, love this. But in all honesty, I don't know, Rosa. Still, I think on the front, you're a little bit too, this is a little bit too much Margriet. And for all you guys who are abroad and go like, what? Margriet is like, it's not even a fashion magazine. It's a magazine in the Netherlands for women. And most of the images are a little bit more, how do you call that? Frivol. A little bit, la 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 la, those kind of images, you know what I mean? Happy. Now, I don't want a sad image, I want a happy image, but this is a little bit too flat for me. So what we're going to do is we're going to take that front strobe. Let me see, that's an style 600. So we're going to go to the style. I'm actually going to lower the output on that one. There we go. That's the cool thing about those remotes. If they work. Ging je naar beneden? Did it go down? Oh. Let me try. And otherwise we have to do it manually. No, didn't go down. So we do it manually. Okay, let me see. Was on 4.7. Let's go to 3.0. Now this is again something I don't meter. This is something that I just go with the flow. I just see what I like, or if I don't like it, I will change it. Ooh, like this way better. Look into the light. Okay, and do that twist again. 1, 2, go. Nice. 1, 2, go. Now, if you think with your lighting, you go like, I don't know, I'm now on 5.6. I don't know if everything's sharp because that's a shallow depth of field. Maybe I need a little bit more, but the lighting is great. I don't want to change anything about the lighting. Don't worry. Don't lower your shutter speed because it strobes. What you do, you go actually into your ISO settings and you go to 400. Now, because you're on 5.6 now, you actually can go to F8 for ISO 200, F11 for ISO 400. So now I have way more depth of field. Okay.
Again?
Yes, you got it. 1, 2, 3, go. And a few more. 1, 2, 3, go. And happy face. 1, 2, 3, go. And the final one. 1, 2, 3, go. And another one. 1, 2, 3, go. And don't fall down. Another one. 1, 2, 3, go. No, that one was great. The final one. 1, 2, 3, go. Awesome. Okay, so let's see what we can do in Photoshop with these images. I think they're pretty cool. After that, we're going to do a lot more, but let's see what we can do with these. She's dizzy. Okay, so let's switch to my camera for you guys so you can actually see who's talking. Let me see where my camera is. I lost my camera. There we go. Okay, let me first see if there are any good images. If there are any questions. Okay. Good day, all from Canada. Hello, photo video guy. How are you? Okay, Matt Grindle says, if you don't have a color checker, you can use a white piece of paper. Don't ever do a white piece of paper. Don't. I'm going to explain to you why. It's very simple. If you balance on white, you're always at the top. So in other words, in the digital system, you go from 0 to 254. Some people say 255. I don't want to discuss about it. Let's say 254. If you use a white piece of paper, it could be that green is actually on 254. And for example, red is on 230 and blue is on 235. Now you make your balance and the computer actually thinks like, okay, green is 254, so I'm going to balance the other two to 254 and I'm done. In reality, it can be that green is actually on 270. But it won't never show you that for the very simple reason, it's 254, it's already topped out on pure white. Now some people say, okay Frank, but then just do a white piece of paper and underexpose the white piece of paper by 2 stops. Then you have something that's similar to, let's say, 36% gray. That don't work either. And I will now tell you why. Let's take a sip. Normally I don't do this, but again, throat infection. So why not use that white piece of paper? In every piece of paper there are wideners. Wideners means that they actually added blue to the paper to make it look more white. Or a little bit more, a little bit less. So if you balance on a white piece of paper, your image will always have too little blue, because there's too much blue in the paper. Now Matt is absolutely right. If you don't have anything else, use a white piece of paper. Again, because what I said before, as long as all the images look the same, it's great. So if all the images have a little bit too less blue, no problem at all, because they all look the same. But don't use it as this is just as good. Don't. It's impossible to take a bad shot of Rose. Yes, it is. Let me see. How do you spell that? I don't know what you mean. Oh, Margriet. Somebody already replied. Rubbish is the word he is looking for, but can't say. No, it's not true. Let me see. Okay, no more questions. Oh, what's the difference between the strip box you used for an example, a softbox with a grid, other than perhaps you get a little bit more of the background? The grid always steers lighting. That's why I love those grids, because it actually steers the light to where I want it to go. I don't like umbrellas or big softboxes because they always throw the light around, and I don't like that. I want the light where I want it, and with the grid, I can very, very narrowly steer it. Okay, so let's take a look at the shots we took and what we can do. So let's go to full screen PC. There we go. You still have audio. Awesome. Okay. Now, the first thing we have to do, of course, is make sure that we get that base correct, that baseline. Remember where I talked about? So I'm going to find my color checker very quickly. Now, again, in Capture One, I don't have an option for building a profile, so I have to do it like this. I'll just select this. So I selected one of these squares. Now, these will yield similar results. I have to be honest, I have to replace my color checker, I see now. When they're new, you won't see any difference between these three. Now you can see that there's a slight difference. So let's take that one. Okay, do the edit, select all, and now adjustments, copy and apply. So now all the shots have the proper white balance. For me, the proper white balance. And because I'm shooting Capture One, I trust my Capture One to be accurate in profiling, so it's okay. So now I'm going to go through the shot. This one I will never use, so we're going to delete it. This one is okay. Now, I don't like that I missed the eye over here, so it's not good enough. This one is okay, but I missed one of her arms, so I'm going to delete those two. A little bit too dark in her face, but I still like it. This one, somehow I love it. The expression is different. I think it's okay. This one I like, and this one I absolutely love. But these shots weren't the ones that we were after. Let's start with this one. Now, as you can see, the background, we just have red, and it's okay, but as soon as we started adding that second light, that's when it started to get interesting. But in all honesty, when I look at these shots, this one is cool, but I think it's a little bit too much glued on, if you know what I mean. Now, what do I mean with glued on? It's like when you sometimes see that people shoot a sunset, and you have this model in front of an amazing sunset, and then they take the shot, and they put lighting straight in front on a face, and you go like, really? Your mind goes like, this doesn't work because the sun is coming from the back. Why is he totally lit? So what I always do is I look at the sun. Let's say the sun is here. I place the model there, and I place my lighting under the same angle, and I underexpose by about 1.5 stop, because then it looks natural, and people actually go like, ooh, that's a sunset. So that's why I don't like this shot. It's a little bit too light on the front for my taste. So let's go back to full screen. Okay. Now this is okay. It all looks great. I love the motion here. Ooh, love this one, by the way. Let me see if it's sharp. This is one of the reasons I love Capture One. It's really fast. And there's another trick. If you go here, view, you can actually see by show focus mask, you see what is sharp. And that actually means that her hair is sharper than her face. And that's actually correct. You see this? Now this is not 100% foolproof, but it's pretty much, let me put it this way, it's 90% accurate. Okay, this one is totally out of focus. As we in the Netherlands say, ze is een beetje een vaag persoon. So I love this one, love this one. Now this is where we started to get a little bit darker. Now this is too dark in her eyes, so I told her to look towards the light. There we go. This is happy face. This is awesome. I love this one. This is great. So this is the first 5-star. This one is out of focus. This is nice. Okay. So now what I do is I actually tell my computer sort on rating. So now I have 2 images, 1 and 2. Now which one do I like best? I absolutely love this one. Let's see if it's sharp. Yes, it is. Okay. So this one will get 0 stars. Now this is something that's very important. So let's switch back to my camera again, so you guys know why it's important. Now, whenever you work with a model, you know that the model always goes like, I want all the images, I want the CD, I want everything. Don't ever give your model all the images. I will tell you why. When I see an image, I always remember the best image. Right, yeah, no. I never remember the best image. I always remember that image that makes me go like, ooh, I'm so glad I didn't shoot that one. So you can have the best image in the world, but if there's another image there that goes like, wah, 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 you go like, that's the image you remember. So if you give your model all the images, your model looks totally different than a photographer. I look at lighting, I look at sharpness, I look at expression, posing, make sure that all the limbs are there, that the model is complete. I want to make sure that, you know, the list goes on and on and on. A model looks at one thing. Oh, look, I'm cute. Oh, look, you see my hair. And she doesn't care that the background is in focus or the foreground is out of focus. She only looks at, I'm pretty, I love my expression there, and that's my image. Now, if that ends up somewhere online, people go like, yeah, that's not a real good photographer. So never give them everything. The other thing is you also have to educate your model. So when I talk to my models, I always tell them, you need the best images possible. If you go to a workshop with me and you only get 3 images that are absolutely stunning, be glad. You don't want to go home with 10 images for the very simple reason, if you go home with 10 images that are mediocre, you can better get 1 image that's awesome. Okay, another question here. I know you like more contrast in your photos when you use a grid. Do you remove the front diffuser on the softbox to get that? It really depends. You can, of course, remove the front diffuser to get a little bit more bite in the shot. You also can leave it in to get it a little bit softer. It really depends on the model. With Rosa, we can do almost anything. She's photoshopped inside. She just comes in the studio and she's already imagenomic portraiture, whatever you want to call it. You don't have to do anything on her skin. So that's awesome for me to work with Rosa because I don't have to do any retouching, as you're going to see in a moment. Another question from Matt. I see you were checking the sharpness of the eyes. I know you area stickler for good catch slides. What tips do you have for getting great catch slides? You saw me talking to the model. Look straight into the light. Look straight into the light. As long as the model sees the light from one of her eyes, it makes sure that it's sure that she has those catch lights. Now, I don't want catch lights to be totally in the picture. I can live with it if the catch light is a little bit off. One moment, I have to do something very quickly here to remove something. Okay, there we go. Great. So, I'm a sucker for those catch lights, but if they're not there, the shot can still be great, but I want them there. So I always ask my model to look straight into the light. The other thing that's really important when you shoot models is make sure that she looks straight ahead. Now, if I'm there and the lighting is there and I'm shooting from there, I don't want my model to look at me. So face this way and the eyes that way, because now I have this big iris over here and a big white here, but the big white you won't see, but you only see that iris, and that's freaky. So let's say she looks the other way and she goes like there. Then you have The Walking Dead. And I love The Walking Dead, but I don't want The Walking Dead in my studio. Although, that would be awesome. But you know what I mean, right? I don't want my model to be looking like The Walking Dead with big wide eyes. So that's why we always train our models, look straight ahead. So eyes straight on. Because then you have a nice wide area here, you have the iris, and you have a nice wide area there. So that works great. Okay, so let's take a look at what we can do with these images. Or this image, by the way. So go to my main PC here. Okay. Within Capture One, we created actually a small recipe. And it's called Frank to Photoshop. It makes a TIFF 16 bits, uncompressed Adobe RGB, and it opens up Photoshop. Okay, so let's start it. There we go. Okay, let's open up Photoshop. There we go. Now, you see the navigator opening up, right? Ignore that for this moment. I'm going to explain to you in a moment why my navigator is so incredibly big. I'm going to first make it a little bit smaller. So stay tuned, because this is a really cool tip I'm going to give you later on in the webinar. Okay, so let's go back here. Okay, so I have my model over here. Now, the first thing I always do is skin work. Now, with Rosa, as I already told you, it's just ridiculous. I don't know what she's doing, but this is just sick. The skin is absolutely nice. But I'm still going to show you what we do normally with a model that isn't perfect. Go to Filter. Now, this is a filter you have to buy. And I have to be honest with you guys, this is really a filter you should buy. If you do one model each week, don't buy it. If you do several models a week, get this, because this saves you a bundle of time. Now it's on 100%, and this is actually terrible, because you can see that there's no more pores left. So let's go to smoothing, medium. There we go. Now the only thing I have to do is take my color picker and just add colors. Okay, I'm going to show you before and after. Now that's much better. Before, after. Now I'm running a 4K monitor, so on the computer where you're watching, we're broadcasting in 720p, this will probably look like, yeah, you know what I mean. But don't worry, it's a huge difference. It's awesome. So just close your eyes and imagine it's great. And you're pretty close. Now because I'm also streaming my desktop, this is a little bit slower than normal. But hey, what can you expect? And it's a big file. It's a 42 megapixel file. So, okay, there we go. Go to your background layer, because this is now actually where the filter is on. Before, after. Now I don't want it on everywhere, so just go to layer, layer mask, hide all. Now this is something I show a lot, so I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this. Because it's black, you can actually now paint with white. And with white, you actually paint the mask in. Now on her face, I just want it a little bit. I don't want to overdo this. I don't want a Barbie doll. But on her front, there we go. Okay. Now Rosa, of course, is going to change for the new set in a moment. And we're going to do another one after this. Okay, cool. And now this is something that I always do, flatten image. And I'm going to tell you why this is so important for me. And this is something that I learned the hard way. Now, when I started with photography, the computers weren't, let me put it this way, they weren't as fast as they are now. And I started out very quickly with medium format files, and those files can be huge. So when you stack layers, every time you stack a layer, your file gets bigger. Now the bigger the file, the slower the computer will be, the slower the filters will be. And to be totally honest, at one point I just lose track, like, okay, which filter on which layer, what. So I started developing a real workflow. Now what is a workflow? It's literally what you tell yourself, a workflow. It's the way your work flows. So make sure it's always the same. With me, it's capture one for final adjustments. Now when I shoot in the studio with a light meter, I will never ever change anything. Maybe a little bit of shadows, but mostly I will do that with lighting in the studio, because the more I do with lighting, the more it's actually better, because I don't have to do anything else later on. Sorry, I lost my train of thought because I was reading something. Hope Rosa make joke you and put something with lots of skin. Sorry, no, it's not a glamour shoot. Come on, behave. Anyway, so make sure that work flows. Now for me, opening up the file in Photoshop, the first thing I do is skin. Now normally I will go in with the healing brush, do some small retouching, then I run image-nomic portraiture. The second thing I'm actually going to show you now is make the image pop. Now what is making the image pop? Now when I was on Mac, I actually used Mac Fun Intensify to make the image pop. At the moment I'm on a PC, so I'm going to use Nik, and Nik is free. And I'm going to use Nik Tonal Contrast. Now another really cool plugin for this is actually Topaz and Topaz Detail. Detail I absolutely love. It's an amazing plugin. But for this look, you know what, I'm going to show you both. So this is with Nik Tonal Contrast. As you can see, it just gives the background a little bit more pop. I really like this. So go to OK. I'm going to show you also something else that I also really like. Okay, there we go. Now let's take this one out and let's create a duplicate layer on this one and run Topaz. And if you do Topaz, get clarity, or, and this was actually a tip from Glenn Dewis, I never used this before, detail. I use it now a lot, by the way, but when he told me, I never used the plugin. I had the suite, but I never used this one, and I totally fell in love with it. It's like tonal contrast on steroids. And Nick is free. Topaz has now a good deal. If you go on my website, you can actually find a blog post with a 40% discount. And as Dutch people, we always love to give you guys good deals because we love to save money. So look at this. And now what you see is this gives you, besides the pop, it gives you a lot of extra sharpness. And I really like that. And look at all the settings you can do. Now Topaz is way more advanced with all these little settings. And you can use contrast. You can take away or add a little bit of the highlights, maybe a little bit shadow. And constantly you can see the original and the one with Topaz. Now press apply. And it's pretty fast. So between tonal contrast and Topaz, if I have to choose, if I don't have any money, of course Nik because it's free, but if you have just a little bit of money, and Topaz is actually pretty cheap. I don't know exactly how it is. Annemie, can you find for me how much Topaz is? The whole suite? Oh, you already know the pricing?
It's for sale now. If you go to your website and look at your blog, you will find exactly what you need.
The 40% discount.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's only till a few days left.
Only a few days left. But Topaz is really cool. But if you don't have any money to spend, go for the Nik because that's free. But there's a reason it's free. Okay, another one asked me, when you use portraiture as a Photoshop action like me, you can't select the skin color. Okay, what I do is I always do first one manually and then I use the action. So that works great for me. Another one, is it true that MacFun will come out with a Windows version of the software? Okay, Paul, I'm going to say something and I'm going to now look at the people that are watching. We now have 45 people watching live and a lot of people probably via Facebook because on YouTube we always have little viewers, on Facebook we have a lot. Let's see how fast the counter goes down. Yes, because they have to. For the very simple reason. Now, I'm not as outspoken as some other people are, but at the moment, Apple. Now, I'm a huge Apple fanboy. I have an Apple Watch. I have an iPhone. Everything you're seeing now is being recorded and broadcasted on a MacBook Pro, but it's a 2014 MacBook Pro. Apple totally is losing the market. Where I was a huge Apple fan, I had an Apple, Anouk has an iMac, Anouk has a MacBook Pro, I had a MacBook Pro, and every time the new MacBook Pro came out, I bought a new MacBook Pro. Actually, my viewers are going up, great. Over here, there was this R2D2 Mac Pro with two D700s, awesome stuff. And at one point, I wanted a little bit more because we were doing, I believe it was the video, Anouk, New York, right? Beyond Snaps New York. And we had a lot of effects in there and we wanted to render it and it was just so slow. And we had to render it in 4K and then we had to do 180p and it was just like, oh my, this takes so long. And then somebody told me you have to get a PC because with a PC you can build whatever you want. And we had some problems with the Mac and we wanted to repair. Yes, it takes 2 weeks. And I was just going like, 2 weeks? I can't wait for 2 weeks. And then at one point it was very simple. Microsoft, the night before Mac announced their new MacBook Pro, Microsoft announced the Surface Studio. And I was just going like, yes, this is what we want. This is what the creative person wants. And I want it with a Wacom pen. Let's make sure the Surface is great, but when you work with the pen, it's nothing compared to a Wacom. But this is the way that we want. Then Apple was announcing their new MacBook Pro, and that should be their main focus. However, the main focus was on their TV app, on the Apple Watch, on colors, I don't know, new wristbands, a new game, and then the MacBook Pro. And I was just going like, what is more important for Apple? The MacBook Pro or all the other stuff? And then you see that big touchpad, and I was just going like, yes, we're going to use the Apple Pencil on the touchpad. This is going to be awesome. I'm going to order that MacBook. And then all the ports were gone. There was no more SD card reader. It was smaller, less battery, no touch input, no Apple Pencil integration. And I just looked at the price and I was going like, I don't know. And in all honesty, at that point we decided, okay, for the studio, we're just going to build, we had some money we had to spend before the end of the year. So we just built a killer PC and we compared it to the Mac Pro. My Mac Pro was 7,000 euros. The PC was 3,000 euros. It destroyed my Mac Pro. And now we're actually looking at a new laptop. So my MacBook is actually going to be sold, and we're probably going to go for a Lenovo P51 because that has a battery that I can switch over in the field. So in other words, if my battery runs down, I can just take the battery out without turning down the laptop because it has a little extra battery, and you just pop a new battery in. It has a card reader, it has everything. And it has a Xeon processor of 46 gigs. I'm sorry, Apple. So yes, MacFun should really focus at this point on Windows machines because I'm not the only one switching. A lot of people are switching. And of course the BenQ and the Cintiq, they work on PC too. Okay, one more question and then I'm going to do this. Yes, they announced it and I can't wait to try. Yes, correct. I just wonder if it will also run on the Windows 7 or only on the Windows 8 or Windows 10. Okay, one tip, and this is from 20 years of experience in IT. When you come from a Mac, don't even think about Windows 8. Don't even think, stay away from Windows 8. Handle it like a vampire. No. Windows 10, awesome. Windows 7, okay. Windows 8, stay away. Holy water over the whole thing. Don't do it. It's really bad if you come from a Mac. Windows 10, great, especially now with the Creators Update. Really good. Okay, Anouk, you have a question from Facebook.
Yes, I have some questions on Facebook Live. One is, what skin filter are you using? But I think you already said that.
Imagenomic portraiture is the skin filter we're using. Imagenomic portraiture.
Yeah, it's on Facebook. And can you talk about the way you crop your pictures and give some tips about it?
Okay, I never crop my images unless I have to. So I believe that you have to crop in camera. In other words, you take the shot and you know that's the way the image is gonna look because it saves you so much time afterwards. I wanna do other stuff. I wanna edit my vlog, I wanna edit some other stuff, but I don't wanna be bothered with cropping because it's an extra move. Don't do it, just shoot it straight on right. Oh, Jurjen, wow, you really made me think about Apple. It hurts, but you are right. You know, Jurjen, 3 years ago I told everybody once you go Mac, you never go back. At the moment, and this is the last thing I'm going to say about it because this is not about Apple. The reason that Apple feels they're doing something wrong is they actually now announce that in 2018, maybe 2019, they are coming out with this amazing Mac Pro with a modular system where you can use external video cards. You remember the time when Steve Jobs stood on stage and showed you this little phone called an iPhone that changed our lives? You remember when they introduced the iPad, where they gave you something that we never saw before, and you were going like, what the heck is that? That's a big iPhone, I don't need that. And you got it and you go like, oh man, I can't live without it. You remember that time? You know what Apple is at the moment? We're gonna bring out a modular system with eGPUs. Yeah, look about Razer, Asus, all the other brands, they already have a laptop with an external eGPU. At this point, Apple isn't innovating. Apple is actually now the one copying. And that's what worries me as an Apple fan, because a modular Mac Pro, think about the price. That's gonna be a 10,000 euro piece. And I can build a PC for 3,000 or 4,000. So, yeah. Again, sorry, I'm a huge Apple fanboy, but it really hurts me to do this. But I'm switching to PCs. So if everybody has another tip for me, except for the Lenovo P51, I'm more than welcome to get those. Any other questions?
Is that the one with the Windows Studio on it?
Is that the one with Windows Studio? No, I also have another laptop, by the way. So I'm gonna have one powerhouse laptop. That's gonna be the P51. So with a Xeon processor, 64 gigs, 2 SSDs, and actually also, and this is what I need, a 3 terabyte spinner inside. So you have 2 SSDs in a laptop and a spinner. That's awesome. And you can just open it up and just change whatever you want inside. The other laptop I'm using is actually a Wacom Mobile Studio Pro. That's like a Cintiq, but it's a 16-inch, 15.6 inch. And that one is absolutely great for photography. So what I'm doing is when I'm on the road, I do all my presentations, workshops, and photography on the Wacom Mobile Studio Pro. And I have this one laptop with me, that's the powerhouse, we call it the powerhouse. And that's where we do the vlog editing, we do more heavy video editing, we do the stuff with the drone. And we can work on that on other videos while I'm retouching on the Wacom Mobile Studio Pro. The cool thing is about the Wacom Mobile Studio Pro is that I can also connect it to my laptop and use it as a Cintiq. And in the plane, of course, I can retouch on it too. So we're always traveling with 2 laptops. Although the Wacom isn't really a laptop, it's more like a portable Cintiq with an i7 processor, so it's pretty fast, but for video editing it's just not fast enough. More questions, Annemiek?
No.
Oh, cool. Okay, so, not cool actually, but let's edit this shot very quickly. Okay, so now you can see the difference between, oops, did I press OK? No. Ah, that's a shame, I only pressed apply. Okay, but you see how fast it goes. Okay, so this is with, let me go to full screen for a moment, there we go. So this is with Topaz and this is with Nick. So with Topaz, you see that for this shot, I don't like Topaz because I love the extra sharpness in, for example, smoke, but in this case, I like this a little bit more. But you see the sharpness in her face with Topaz, really great. But for this shot, I actually like the tonal contrast a little bit more. So let's take this one out. Now, of course, I don't want it in her face. So what I'm going to do is layer, layer mask, hide all. Oh, sorry, of course not. Now, of course, you can do edit, undo, but let's do it faster. Let's take the paint bucket and just press white. Because if it's white, it shows everything. When it's black, it conceals everything. And by the way, just a very quick tip. And this one I have to look you straight in the eyes for. Now, a lot of people ask me, with masking and with anything else, what should I use? Or how should I remember, black or white? What shows and what conceals? Now, this one I didn't think of myself. I think it's a great, funny way to get back to people. Like, this is the answer you should give. Don't worry about it. If black doesn't work, white will. And if white doesn't work, black will. So don't try to remember what it does. If one doesn't work, there are only two choices, black or white. So just change to the other one. I also never know. So, okay, there we go. Okay, so what I want is I don't want it in the face. I'm just going to actually take a brush and I'm going to paint this over. There we go. I'm going to do it really fast because this is a webinar. I don't have to win any prizes with these shots. You guys can win a great prize, by the way, and go to Alaska with BenQ. I'm going to show you that in a moment. I think I'm going to not show you that actually. I'm just going to compete myself. So I'm going to show you a different link that actually goes to my website and then I win. Because I want to go to Alaska. Although it's pretty cold out there. So. Okay, so now I did this very fast. Now, do you want to see a cool trick? And I know Ineke is online. Ineke actually told me this one. If you use your backslash, you can actually see how sloppy I was. There you go. And I love it when people give me Photoshop tips. Very simple reason, I'm not a retoucher. As you can see. I just have my own workflow, and if somebody tells me something that goes faster, I'm very, very grateful for that. Okay, and press it again, and there we go. Okay, layer, flatten image. Now, there's one thing I do have to correct a little bit, and that's actually the colors. Because, in all honesty, when I'm really honest to you guys, I always tell people, and this is also why I love the BenQ monitors. In my work, I'm a 99% digital photographer. I still shoot analog. But in my heart, I'm a 100% analog photographer. I just love analog photography. When I scan an analog image, I always go like, yep, this is it. I don't have to change anything. When I look at this shot, I go like, yeah, it's nice, but it's missing something. I want to add something to it. And this is why we always use those color checkers and the light meter to make sure that when I add something, it will look the same on all the shots. Oh, by the way, there's some questions more. I have a question. Using an EOB 400 with an AH head and Psychonic 858 with shutter over 125. Yeah. Yep, correct. The question is very, very simple, and we get this question a lot. Does this new Psychonic meter HS or Hypersync? I'm very sorry, no. It meters HSS, high speed sync. High speed sync is actually a pulse of 50 Hertz, and that it can meter. High sync is something completely different. Let me see if I can explain it really fast. And this is something that you probably never saw before, but I still want to show it to you guys. So let me go to File, New. Let me just start with a Wide document. I want to show you to this. And bear with me, because this sounds a little bit difficult, but in all honesty, it isn't. This is time. And let's say when you shoot with a normal strobe, this is actually what happens. Nothing, 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 boom. And now you have F11. And, oops. This is probably, let's say, this is time. this is maybe 1/2500th of a second. So this is why you can actually freeze motion with a strobe. Okay, so let's just delete this. Oh yeah, just leave it in. And let's change the color to red. Okay, now we're going to do something else. Just forget about this for a moment. Bear with me because the time doesn't make any sense now, but now we're going to use an HS system. And this also gives me F11. Now, when you know how systems work, let me go to picture-in-picture, because then I can, maybe this helps if I look at you guys. Now, if you know how a system works, right, you need a certain amount of light to reach F11. Now, when you look at this peak, it's one peak that comes in a really short time and that will give you F11. Now, this is a longer burst of light that will also give you F11. But that longer burst of light is actually what makes it possible to shoot on a very high shutter speed. Now, how does it work? Very simple. This strobe, oops, sorry guys, this strobe has actually 1/600th of a second, and we call that the flash duration. So if I use a light meter, it will actually meter this whole part. So it will meter the complete area in which the light is on, and it will give me F11. Now watch this. If I change 1/600th of a second to, let's go to a different color. Oh, this is going to be so awesome. There we go. If I change this to, let's say, 1/1000th of a second, you see what happens? It cuts off the strobe here. So to reach F11, I need this. So now I actually end up with maybe F5.6. So the faster my shutter speed is, the more the flash gets cut. And that's where the whole shit comes in, to be honest. This is where it will be impossible for a light meter to meter this, because certain cameras have a crop sensor, certain cameras have a leaf shutter lens. Some cameras will have a slightly faster flash synchronization. Like for example, that's where you also have to set the ODS. Without making it too difficult, that's actually where you time everything. So it will be almost impossible to do this. The only thing I always tell people, if you want to use high sync and hypersync, just put the strobe on full power. That's actually where the strobe is also the slowest. So put it on full power and start experimenting with it. At one point you will just know that on full power, if I want 1/4000th of a second, I will probably end up with f2.8 ISO 400, because on that really fast shutter time, and I can show you again, let's take now orange. Now if I go like here, and I go like, okay, this is 1/4000th of a second, I will actually only use this little piece of light. So now I have 2.8 on ISO 400, because I'm throwing away all the other light. So you will never ever have a way to meter that. And that's as soon as you start going above the flash duration of your strobe. So if you go above that 1/600, well, that's the end. By the way, you can also use D-lights, all the cheap strobes, so Falcon Eyes, Jim Bay, all the other brands, they are slow in your flash duration. The slower the better, and the more power you can get out of them for your faster speeds. So if you have an ELC, that ends at about 1/320th of a second and it's gone, because it's a really fast strobe. Okay, analog photos smell really good. You're absolutely right, Matt. Okay, there is some video from Frank using smoke a couple of years ago. It worked great for me. The essence, buy a cheap smoke generator and backlight it. True, always backlight smoke. I'm going to buy a smoke generator for a project I want to shoot. Always get smoke generators, they're awesome. Okay, let's close this down. I hope that was clear. Okay, what head do you use on an ELB 400? I have two heads. I use an A head when I want to freeze action in the studio or somewhere else, and I use a HS head when I want to use a high shutter speed. Okay, let's go back to my picture before I run in overtime. Okay, So the only thing I now do is actually, I have to take that one out. So we're going to select this and we're just going to press delete. And we're going to use content aware fill. Press OK and it's done. I actually don't like it that way. So let's go to 100%. Take that out. Cool. Okay. Filter, alien skin. This is my absolute go-to filter for tinting. In the past I used DxO Film Pack a lot, and I still advise that highly to people. But I think with the latest incarnation, alien skin exposure is just slightly better. It's not much, but it's slightly better. Although when you want real natural looking film images, I still think DxO Film Pack is better. But in this case, because I'm using a lot of colors, I really want something a little bit more funky, and that's actually where alien skin comes in great. There we go. Really love this. You see it's not much, just gives me a little bit more extra bite. Okay, now let's say you want a little bit more color. Okay, that's no problem. You just go to your color saturation. Let me see, that's the wrong one. Color saturation. And instead of just going to the reds, like this, what you actually can do is just select a color and then boost it. And change the lightness, for example. And the lower you put the lightness, the more saturated the color will look. You can actually change it a little bit around. Let's say you want it a little bit more magenta. I love this. And you can do the same thing for the cyan. Let's see here. Let's add a little bit saturation. Change the hue just a little bit. There we go. Really like this. Okay, now color your life. Let's make this dress a little bit more shiny. Now we all know the dodge tool, right? But if you click on the dodge tool, you can actually also see the sponge tool. And the sponge tool has a saturation setting over here. So you can do desaturate or saturate. I have it pretty high, 85%. And just paint over the areas you want more color. And now it really starts to pop. There you go. Okay, pretty cool. Let's say file close, and now it actually saves the file. Okay, so we're back in Capture One. Let's do another shot, and this time we're actually gonna sidelight our model a little bit more. But first, I want to show you guys what you can win. So let's do that. And of course you can pause that last one in the rerun. So, and we already said it there. Okay, hello again from Spain. You are on a budget. Do you go 70 centimeter deep octa with custom grid from Honeycomb's grid or Beauty Dish with grid? What would be your choice if you could only afford one? Ooh. Beauty Dish with grid. For the very simple reason, with the Beauty Dish with the grid, you actually have the beauty disc and you have the grid, but you also have the deflector. So you actually have 3 different light setups just in one, because you can also use, of course, the sock in front of it. So that's a very versatile setup. Okay, I asked a few questions on Facebook, but I ask here as well. I have an iMac that I paid €3,700 for and it's garbage. Do you recommend the Windows Studio? The Windows Studio, you know what? Yes and no. Microsoft is starting to release, I believe, the Surface Studios. they're really nice, but try out a Wacom Cintiq or try out the Wacom Mobile Studio Pro and just see if you like that, because the pen on the surface, I think it's a lot less than the Wacom. So if you're used to working with the Wacom, I think the surface will disappoint you just a little bit. And a lot of people actually tell you, no, it's great, the surface works. And I tried it a few times. For me, for retouching, it's great. But if you're also an artist that likes to draw or to paint, I think the surface is just a little bit behind the Wacom. So if you spend a lot of money, I would actually say, okay, go for a really fast desktop PC with a Cintiq. For example, the 15.6 Cintiq at the moment. So get a desktop and a really fast one, and then just add the Cintiq to it. Okay, let me see, no other questions. Okay, so let's switch back to the studio, and then we're gonna do another shoot with our model. And she has a beautiful new dress. And of course, Nadine sent us all our dresses. Not all her dresses, of course, but she sent us quite a few. Okay, so let's see what we can do now. Let's be a little bit more creative. Okay, lighting-wise, I'm not going to change a lot. I'm still going to use that front light, but I want a little bit more, let me put it this way, a little bit more flair in my shot, a little bit more action. So let's see what we can do. Let's first take this one and start out by just going against the model. So Rosa, can you stand over there? So we're going to use it a little bit as an accent light. So we're going to use the blue one on that side, and this one we're actually going to use as fill-in light on the front. Now, even with the studio lighting on, I can still feather my light. You can still see what I'm doing. Okay, cool. Let's take this one. Let's aim that a little bit like this. There we go. Aim this one a little bit more front. Nice. Okay, because we use the same setup as before, I'm not going to change anything, but I am going to take a test shot. Now you see I'm not using a light meter at the moment, for the very simple reason I'm using the same setup as before. The only thing, of course, is it's a totally different light setup. Okay, let's just zoom in on my model. I love this. Now what you're going to see is it looks different. And I think actually the blue one didn't fire. Let's do that one again. There we go. Now we also have the blue one. Yeah. It's different. But I don't like it. The blue one is too bright. So let's go to select. And let's see which is the ELC. That's the ELC. Let's turn that one down. Okay. So I'm going to turn the blue one all the way down to just a hinge. Just a very, very small accent. Okay, there we go. This is better. So now I don't have that really bright light. I just have it a little bit. Now I have to play with this. So I'm now shooting it pretty close up. So what I want to do actually is I want to make my model look that way. I'm going to include some of the strobes in a moment. And now you can already see that we're getting somewhere. We're getting a little bit more adventurous with our lighting. It looks a little bit more interesting, but we still have a lot of burned out hair over here. So Kim, can you please move the red strobe a little bit forward? So what I'm going to do is the red strobe is now actually behind my model, and I'm going to actually move the red strobe forward and a little bit that way. Perfect. Now aim it back. Turn, turn, turn. Stop. So now I still want that red, but I don't want her hair to blow out. So it sounds weird. By moving the light closer, I'm actually getting less light output, but still that red. But as you can see in the image that comes in, I actually get exactly the effect I want. Just a little bit of red and a little bit of blue. Let's make that a little bit more. So there we have the style. That's the BRX. So go here. That's actually the cool thing about the new Skyports. We can actually control all the strobes. Let me see if it focuses. Oh, it's off. There we go. So we can control all the strobes from our remote control. Now in the past you had to use groups, group A, B, C or D or whatever. And it was always a little bit like, yeah, but what did I do? Now they actually talk to each other. So now I can actually just go through the list and just change my output. Look towards the light. Really nice. Oh, this is nice. Now we're getting somewhere. I really love this. Awesome. Okay, let's see if we can be a little bit more adventurous by just including some of the light sources and shooting it straight on. That's cool. But the blue one doesn't really do it for me. Now the red one on the other hand, on the side, that should be a little bit more interesting. There we go. Now this I do like. Because now you actually get that really nice sense of, ooh, there's something behind my model. You see that little shimmer of light? It's because the gel isn't totally over the strobe. So you get that nice, almost like it's a sun effect. Now, to be honest, when I look at this, I go like, you know what? Just pump up the volume on the back. Just go all the way. Let's go 1980 discos on the back side. Full power. Don't you think so? Yeah, man. We need that power. There we go. Now I actually see that this one also goes up. That was not the idea. Let's turn this one down. Okay. That's nice. Awesome. The blue one also went up somehow. So there goes my whole story. Because you know what I did wrong? I didn't select the right strobe. So that is totally my mistake. Sorry guys. So we have to put the ELC down again. This is totally my mistake. And this one also down. Okay. If you just turn the dial, they all go. And if you tailor it to one strobe, only that one goes. So this is better. Okay. So now we have that really nice accent lighting, we have that nice flare on the back. I'm really starting to like this, and the front I like even darker. So let's make this even more moody. Let's see how low we can go. Okay, there we go. Oh, this is nice. Okay, now I want a little bit more power in your poses. There we go. That's it. Ooh, that's nice. Love that. Nice. So now when you see the images coming in, you see that we have something a little bit different from your standard setup of light. I like that bronze color on our skin. So that's the front actually, which mixes with the red. I like the blue one. I think it's pretty much okay. The only thing is I wanted a little bit more on her elbow. So Kim, can you actually turn down that light? Just aim it down, kantel it. That's Dutch.
Nice.
So you just open up the, let me do it. I don't want to kill my intern because he's afraid that she does wrong. Okay, let's turn this one down. Like this, and just aim it a little bit towards the model. There we go. I'm very picky about how I set up my lights. Okay. That way. Really nice. That's it. Okay, let's get that blue one in just a little bit from the side. Nice. Chin up just a little bit. You know what's coming, right?
Maybe.
Twist and shout.
Okay.
So turn around.
Yeah.
And as soon as I say yes, you turn around and you scream violently without making any sound.
Okay.
1, 2, 3, go. A little bit closer towards me, towards that light. A little bit that way. A little bit towards me. Yes. Are you ready? 1, 2, 3, go. One more.
You go one.
Yeah, no problem. 1, 2, go. Great. 1, 2, go. Don't be too afraid.
Okay.
1, 2, 3, go. That's it. That's the one. Cool. Okay, let's see what we can do with these shots. That one is... No, you can do better.
Okay.
You can do much better. I believe in you. 1, 2, 3, go. I think that one is way better. Yes, that's the one. Okay, turn down camera. Let's go back to the computer. I hope you guys are having fun, like we do. And I have to take a little break, and in that break I actually want to show you a promo we did for one of my favorite BenQ monitors, and that was actually the 27-inch. Hey guys, my name is Frank Doorhof, and I want to tell you today about the new 27-inch monitor from BenQ. Now, I'm a fashion photographer, and I like my colors to be as they are in real life, because I do my best to light my scene correctly, to style the scene, to have great makeup, great model, and then I see my images on a monitor and they look like, well, very dull. Well, that can happen to you too, and it will probably happen to you. You know the problem? Your monitor is not up to spec. Now, a monitor isn't a monitor. It's not something that just shows you the image. There are many different kinds of monitors. Like TV sets, your very expensive ones, which will give you better image quality, right? Now, with computer monitors, we always tell people it's all about the color space. For example, you have an sRGB monitor, or for the professionals, an Adobe RGB monitor. But if you don't know what that means, it doesn't make any sense. Now, let me make it simple. These are the colors in real life. So this is what you capture, right? It's great, it's vibrant, it's saturated, it's real life. Now, an sRGB monitor, it's a really small color space. And that's okay for the web or for a laptop or just simply browsing your images. But if you want those more vibrant colors, you need something a little bit bigger. And that's an Adobe RGB color space. It's just a bigger color space. But it also means that the monitor has to show those colors. Now, in the past, those monitors were pretty expensive, especially a 27-inch. And BenQ really made me enthusiastic about this monitor because it's very affordable. It's delivered with a hood. So, in other words, it will cut down on your glare. And it's, well, I can give you all the bells and whistles about it, like it has all the inputs you need, it has all the specs, it's 99% Adobe RGB. But in the end, it all boils down to one thing, image quality. And I'm very picky, and as you can see, it's my main editing monitor at the moment. So I'm very enthusiastic about the monitor. If you are looking for a great monitor, and you want something in the 27-inch, and you don't want to spend a whole lot of money on it, check out the new BenQ 27-inch. And for me, the most important thing is that it has their own software and you use a calibrator. And you can really make sure that the reds are as red as they are intended. Now, I know a lot of monitors come with this sheet, like I'm calibrated in the factory. That's great, but it doesn't make any sense because your computer is different. So you have to recalibrate. Now, when do you recalibrate? I always recalibrate before a very important retouch session. For example, if I have to do a wedding or a fashion shoot, I will just let my monitor warm up for half an hour or an hour, do the calibration, and then I do my retouching. That way, I know for sure that my colors are accurate. So BenQ, job well done. I'm very happy with the monitor. And you guys, if you're in the market for a new monitor, check out the new BenQ series because they're really knocking one out of the ballpark with this series. Hey guys, my name is Frank Doorhof and I'm the author of the book Mastering the Model Shoot. Now, you guys really like the book because we're getting a lot of rave reviews on Amazon and every other online store. So that actually triggered us to make a video series about the book. Now, in the first video, I will tell you everything about the light meter. Now, in digital photography, I think the light meter is the one thing that confuses people a lot. Shouldn't I use the histogram, Frank? Isn't there a meter inside the camera? Where do I point the meter? Towards the pretty girl? Towards the camera? Towards the light source? Where? There's a lot of confusion out there. Now in this video, I will give you in more than 70 minutes all the insights out about the light meter. Calibrating, using incident and reflective, using a white background, how to keep details in the black, how to trigger the meter, where to point the meter. You will see everything very easily explained, but you will also see photo shoots including our model Manon. This is one of the videos if you're slightly interested in the light meter, or if you already have a light meter and you want to know everything about it, get this video. It's called Mastering the Model Shoot, the Light Meter, and it's the first video in a whole series that we're going to release in connection to our book Mastering the Model Shoot, and it's available now from our website. And we're back. Sorry, sometimes we just need a little break because it's a 2-hour live broadcast, and again, I have a sore throat, so I need to get some candy in to make sure that I can continue. Okay, first some questions. Let me see. Why your Skyport is on speed mode? Because I also use a leaf shutter lenses, and I like it then on speed mode. Let me see. I have the BenQ SWP 2700 PT. Do you recommend the upgrade to the new 32-inch? Wait a few minutes before, because I'm going to explain to you guys that in a moment, because I'm going to talk about the monitor in a moment. Let me see. Is the stage there to help you as a tall guy to get a bit lower than your models? No, it's not there for that. I can always sit down. It was actually already in the building when we bought it, and we did want to take it out, but then we thought, you know what, just leave it in, maybe we can use it. And it's actually pretty cool. I see you are working the shot, readjusting everything to get the shot the way you want it. Just watching Joe McNally do that as well. Well, you know, it is, how can I explain this? I use that light meter as almost like a religion. I really want to meter that light. Now, as soon as I have that base, the cool thing is now I know how many stops to underexpose to get that look that I like. Now, those accent lights, that's a different story. Those I really do by eye. I want to show myself, this is what I'm going to get, this is how I like it, done. And now it's cool. But by adjusting it first to be 100% correct with the light meter, I know, okay, I want this look, I want that sort of light, so just lower it 2 stops or 1.5 stops. So still use that light meter. Some people tell me like, okay, but you change your lighting. Should you use a light meter? Yes, because I want the same shot over and over again. That's also why you use those color checkers and that calibration tool, because you want to repeat that look. And now when I meter it, I actually know, when I'm not showing this to you guys, I would actually meter it on, for example, f4, and then immediately shoot it f at 8, because I know that's the look I want. But I want to show you guys first how it looks normally, and then how you can be more creative by underexposing it a little bit. And I think Joe does exactly the same. Joe is a very, very technical shooter, so without a doubt. I'm loving this. It gives me more great ideas for some in and outdoor shots. Hey Marshall, that's why we're here. I have missed this live broadcast if my phone not come message with it. Hope you remember when next time is. Yes, we always announce the next one, but if you subscribe to my YouTube channel, and I really, really hope you guys do, this is my YouTube channel. Now, the thing is, we never asked for subscribers, never ever. And so the YouTube channel grew really, really slow, but steadily. We've started asking for subscribers like a few months ago, and the YouTube channel is now literally exploding. We have a daily vlog, we have a lot of tips, live streams, so please subscribe, it's free. And well, I try to do my best to give you guys cool stuff. And if you subscribe, you really help us because we can create more stuff if we have more subscribers because of course, sponsorships. Let me see. Windows 10 for me still untamable and strange things. Macs are very expensive for that, you are right. Is Photoshop CC on Windows 16 bits when you want to print? Photoshop CC on the Windows and Mac exactly works the same, so don't worry about that. At least as far as I know. I'm going to try the last setup next week. My lens isn't very dusty, so I don't get the nice effect you have. Yes. Don't tell anybody. Annevi, can you give me my camera? I'm going to tell you a little secret, and you have to promise me, don't tell anybody else. This is just between us, right? So don't tell anybody else. Now this is my Sony a7R II. It's the best camera in the world. It literally is. I still shoot with my Phase 1 DF Plus and Credo 60, which I love. Every time I shoot with that combination, it's like magic. It's sharp, it's three-dimensional, the colors are great, but it's a big camera. But I still love it, so don't worry. But next to that, let me put it this way. Next to medium format, this is the best camera in the world. Now, this is the 24-70 G Master. Now, if something is called a G Master, you know it has to be great, right? And it is. It's stunning. There's one thing. Do you see my lens? It's dirty. It's really, really dirty. And the reason it's dirty, it's what you see on the screen. You get all those nice little flares, all these nice little thingies in the lens. So I never clean my lens, and that's the reason why. Normally you will never see those dust particles show up, but as soon as you take a shot like this with strong backlighting, those dust particles will show up. Okay, let's go to the image. I really like that last image. I'm going to switch over to my computer. I'm going to show you a very quick retouch, and then we're going to talk about calibration and some other cool stuff. I think it's cool. Okay, I really love this shot. Now, in all honesty, when I see it on this computer monitor, I do think I need it a little bit brighter. A little bit more contrast, a little bit more shadow. There we go. Okay, I'm going to switch back because this is important, and that's when I switch back to the frame cam. You see me changing stuff. Now, in the studio, I'm actually shooting, Steffi, can you turn one of the cameras towards where I'm shooting? So one moment, we're going to turn one of the cameras. And can you zoom in on that monitor? Okay, so that's the monitor I'm shooting up. That's the monitor I'm actually determining on if my exposure is right, because Anouk is sitting here. I can't see the BenQ. And I was wrong. Very simple. That monitor is calibrated. That monitor is correct. However, it doesn't show it as good as the BenQ. And this is something that's vital. This is something you have to remember in a moment when I'm going to talk about calibration and why I use the BenQ. Okay, let's go back to the monitor. Okay, let's go to Photoshop. I'm going to show you some really fast tips for this one. First things first, the cable. My tip is always use black cables, and we actually didn't use them here because they're easily to be left out. But in this case, because we have, let me put it this way. If you did something wrong, never tell people you did wrong. We, by choice, use this gray cable because now it really shows up and it's easy to clone out. Yeah, never tell somebody you're wrong. Okay, let's do this fast. Let's do the quick mask. Take a brush, take a nice bigger brush, and just paint over the area you don't want. Now you can use the lasso tool, but I think this works a little bit better. There we go. Now let me see if there's more that I want out. No, that's part of the wall. Here we have another cable that I don't like. Actually, maybe also the stand. Let's just take the stand out too. Okay. Now, you have to be very careful when you do this, if you fit on screen, that you now actually do this. Select inverse. And now delete it with content aware. Now, it doesn't work all the time, but most of the time, it goes pretty well. Again, we're streaming the desktop, so my computer is a little bit slower. It does pretty well. Okay, now we zoom in again. We're just going to check if it worked. Okay, we see a small thing that I don't like. So just go here. There we go. Take this out. Take that out. Make this a little bit less obvious. And don't be too picky about this because nobody will see this. It's a 42 megapixel file. Nobody looks in it 100%. And if they do see, you always tell people, yeah, that's the way I intended it to be. There you go. Okay, skin works. He doesn't need any. Let me see here. Let's take that one out a little bit. And this and this. There we go. Okay, do the same thing again. We make a duplicate layer. We go to Nik tonal contrast. And again, I hope that very quickly they will release MacFun for PC. Because I think MacFun is clearly better. Let me see, another question. Maybe you can put your camera in front of a vacuum cleaner. I think there's always dust there. Yeah, you can try that too. Oh my. Okay, before, after. I think the effect is a little bit too strong, but I'm still going to press OK, because I'm going to blend those two together. Really love this shot. A lot of dust on the sensor. We did great. Okay, so let's just blend these two together. And I always start at 0, and I slowly build up the effect. That's it, not more. Layer, flatten image. Okay, now this I don't like, and this I don't like. I want that to be a little bit more filled up. So let's go to a layer, new layer. And this is really easy to do. You take a brush, you sample, you sample a color here, make the brush really big, like this. And you just do this. Don't worry, we're not done yet. Sample here. And do the same thing. Now duplicate that layer. And just take that layer off. Now go to this layer and do filter, blur, Gaussian. And do it just a little bit. You barely want to see the sides of the strobe. There we go. So this already looks better. Change the opacity a little bit. Okay, nice. Now go to the top layer and blur it like it doesn't know any tomorrow. Go all the way up. And press OK. And you see that gives just a little bit more atmosphere to your shot. So without, then we put this one in and this one. And this one is still a little bit too bright. So just tone it down. Okay. Now again, I'm doing a layer flatten image. I just want to open up her face just a little bit. So I'm going to make a duplicate layer. And this is bad lighting from my side. So normally we don't do this, but in this case with motion, you never know if your model is straight in front of the camera or in front of the light, sorry. I'm only focusing on a face now with my eyes. I'm going to do a layer mask, hide all. Take a white brush. I'm just going to open up her face just a little bit. There we go. Nice. Layer, flatten image, filter, alien skin, and now we're going to go into the part where I'm going to give you a lot of tips on how to maintain your monitor to do it the way that you want, and how to calibrate and why, and a cool setup for all you guys that work with multiple monitors and, for example, the Cintiq. But first, we have to finish this shot. There we go. This is awesome. Look at this. Really like this. I don't like the fact what's going on here. So I'm going to choose another one. That's better. Yep. Add a little bit of contrast. That's the cool thing. You can do whatever you want later on. There we go. Change the darkness a little bit. And before and after, I really love this. Cool. And press apply. Okay, flatten image. Nice. Now I see a little bit of these corners. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my healing brush, make it really big, go to 100%, and we're going to actually take those corners out by just going over them with the healing brush. You see this? Really easy. As the Americans say, easy peasy. There we go. Love it. Okay, file save. I'm not going to remove this. Okay. Now we're going to switch to the camera and I'm going to show you how my setup normally is. And I'm going to give you some tips for calibration. Okay. Now today, because I was mirroring this monitor, you actually saw a 4K monitor downscaled to 720p, which is terrible. In the future, when we have fiber over here, we're going to start streaming in 180p. Now we do everything by 4G. Thank you, T-Mobile. We're not sponsored by T-Mobile, by the way. We pay every cent to T-Mobile, but they're absolutely awesome by offering an option for where there's no fiber. Okay, so, oh, by the way, Anouk just tell somebody, Frank also one time threw sand on his lens. Don't ever do that, because it will actually scratch your lens. I never did that. I said it as a joke. Anouk actually thinks I did it. I never did. I just told her, don't do that. Sand will scratch, dust won't. Okay, so normally this is my go-to monitor. So my normal setup is this, literally. So I will have Photoshop running on the Cintiq. And now the problem comes. The Cintiq is great for retouching. It has a great color gamut. It's a great monitor. If you don't have money for any other monitor, the Cintiq works great. But it doesn't have nice shadow detail. And the colors aren't the full Adobe RGB. Now the BenQ monitor is a full Adobe RGB monitor. It's 99%, so let's call it full. Now normally what you can do is if you have a monitor over here with, let's say, 180p, and you have a monitor over there 180p, what you do is you mirror your display. That works. Now that's a 4K monitor, and this is a lower resolution. I don't know, I believe 2560 by 1440 or something like that. Now what we have to do is make sure that I get one image here and one image there. What you can do is you can create a second instance of your image. But now you always have two images. So if you do retouching and you save it wrong, you actually save the instance and it's a mess. And every time you have to do it over and over again. Now normally when we retouch really, really fast. So it goes like do-doom, 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 do-doom. And I don't want to open up, save, instance, no. So on the side in Photoshop, you actually have something called the navigator. What I do is I actually, and the navigator is normally really slow, really small like this. So let me show you that on the screen here. Let me do picture in picture again. Okay. So normally, let me take capture one out of the frame for a minute. Normally the navigator is really small, as you can see here. It's really, really small. The cool thing, however, is with Navigator, you can actually drag it all the way here. And now you have a really cool, big Navigator. So now I have all my retouch stuff over here, and I have Navigator on the top. The cool thing about Navigator is, if I zoom here, let's say into 100%, so I'm going to go 100% on my image, the navigator will actually show you a square, and you can see that now moving on your screen. It can show you a square of where you are. Now let's say I go into 200%. You see that the navigator mimics that. Now watch this. I'm going to take a brush, and I'm of course going to destroy my image now. I'm Gonna take a brush and I'm gonna paint here with white so you guys can really see. As long as I paint, nothing happens. Now watch this. As soon as I lift up my brush, it will actually be updated in the navigator. So now I know how my image looks. Okay, so that's one part. So let's go back. So the BenQ has way better color accuracy, shows way more in the shadows, so I trust the BenQ. Okay, now why and how should I run filters? Okay, watch this. I'm now in my image and I want to tint. So I go to Filter, Alien Skin, Exposure 2. Now normally, of course, this opens up on your main monitor. But this isn't my main monitor. This is my Cintiq. This is my retouch monitor. So actually now Alien Skin opens up there. Now you can of course take your mouse and now go up and do this, but you can also program your AK remote. That's the remote you get with your Cintiq. And also, by the way, if you have a normal Intuos, it doesn't make any sense to do this with an Intuos, you can actually press a key and now your pen moves over all your displays. So now I can actually go on top and I can select all my stuff. So now I can really focus on this screen, the BenQ, which I trust 100%. I can really pinpoint the look that I like. Okay, I like this one. And then I press apply. In this case, I will press cancel, of course. Now I press that button again, and now I'm back in my retouch mode. So that's the cool thing about using two monitors. And this is actually something that you really should do. Okay, let's close this down. Okay, there we go. Did I save already? No, I don't know. Let's say yes. Okay, so now we have two monitors. Actually, we have three. We have this one and we have that one. How do you make those two look identical? Well, you can't. That's absolutely impossible because they're different. The BenQ has a wider color gamut. The BenQ has better shadow detail. The Cintiq is an awesome monitor. Don't get me wrong, it's a really great monitor. I'm in love with the Cintiq. So don't think I'm putting the Cintiq down. This is awesome, but it's a different type of display. That one is absolutely gorgeous for color, for accuracy, for whatever you want. This is it. So what we're now going to do is we're going to make sure that those two look together. And because we have limited time, I'm only going to show you it for the BenQ. Now, the BenQ is something that's, in my opinion, incredibly important. And that's called hardware calibration. Now, let's first look at what is calibration. Calibration means that I show the monitor red, green, blue, cyan, magenta, yellow, and I show them 10 steps of white, actually sometimes more. Now, those 10 steps of white has to be neutral white. So, for example, 10, 10, 10. So 10 red, 10 green, 10 blue. 20 red, 20, etc. up until 254, 254. The monitor knows that all those files, all those steps has to be equal in amount. Easy, right? So when I show them a file, let's say, and we call those IRA patterns. So let's say I show them 50% white, which is actually gray, of course. The monitor will actually look via the color analyzer, is this equal? Is this 128, 128, 128? If it's not, it will actually tell the ICC profiling, add a little bit of green, take away a little bit of blue, and we're done. Simple, right? That's an ICC profile. The thing is, the ICC profile lives in your video card. It's software. And it has a certain LUT. Now, I don't want to make it too complicated, but let me put it this way. You can compare it to storing a JPEG or a RAW. It's not that dramatic, but just for argument's sake, right? So when I do it with software, like for example, the X-Rite software, I'm storing it as a JPEG. It works great. Nothing wrong. When I use software that's actually tailor-made for the monitor, now I can store it in RAW. I'm going to show you how to set it up. Now, I hope this works because, again, we're streaming, and when you stream, actually all bets are off. So let's put the analyzer in front. This is so cool. You have the hood with your monitor, and in the hood there's actually a hole, and through the hole you actually put your color analyzer. So let's put this in front of the monitor. There we go. That's about it. Let's switch to picture-in-picture. So I'm going to show you the software really fast and how to set it up. Because this is where we get a lot of questions about how do you set up that software. Let me see, first the question. Why do you zoom in to 200 or 100 or 300? Very simple, I wanted to show how the navigator works, so nothing else. Another question. How do you set up that you can go over to the second screen? I think in the driver, but you can toggle. Please show this Saturdays, there's no time today. Actually, we do that with the plug here. So it only works on the Cintiq, so don't worry. You can do it also on the other, I will show you on Saturday, Ineke, don't worry. Okay, let's start up the software for, oh, by the way, if you ever want to switch to Windows as a Mac user, I really don't like this. I don't hate it, I just don't get it. Why should somebody want to do this? And this is actually normally with Windows also on the bottom, so I really don't get it. So what I downloaded is Nexus. I hope you can see that. No, it's behind the picture. Let me do this very quickly. Just a tip in between. I hope you guys appreciate that. This is Nexus, and now I have all these icons over here. And there are also others, but I think Nexus is the best. And it's free. Hey, I'm Dutch. Okay, let's go to picture-in-picture. I'm going to show you the calibration process really fast because we're almost out of time. But that's no problem at all. Okay. Start up the software palette master element from BenQ. Now you have to make sure that you have an analyzer that's compatible with this software. So when you buy the monitor, make sure that you look online and your analyzer is compatible with the software. Now how do you set it up? Very simple. It's the 3201. I have the iDisplay 1 Pro. So you can use all the other ones, as you can see here, even Spiders now and Pros. So this is really cool. And go to Advanced. And go to Start. Now this will look really small on your screens, but I'm going to tell you exactly what I'm going to do, so don't worry. Yep. Isn't it awesome when stuff doesn't work? Of course, we tried this before the broadcast and it worked. Let me try it again. Okay, let me try it again, guys, sorry. Otherwise, I'm just going to tell you how it works. Please wait while we initialize. Now, let's hope it works now. Ah, there we go, now we've green. Whew. Go to Advanced and go to Start. Okay, go to Profiling and go to Next. And now it's very important that you do this. Choose Photographer. The white point, now you can choose between D50, 65 or P3. Don't even go to P3, that's for 4K ultra high definition HDR. Don't go there, just go to D6500. Now you can see the color gamut there. You can actually see the change if I'm correct. No, okay, just do D6500. RGB primaries, Adobe RGB. Oh, here you now, see now you can change this. This is P3, don't go there, you don't need it. This is Rec 709 if you're a video editor for HD or any other stuff. Panel native. But what we need is Adobe RGB. Okay, so here you have the Adobe RGB triangle. Luminance, custom 48, no, that's way too low. What I always tell people, go between 120 and 130. I like 130. The reason you choose 130 and not, for example, 200, 200 is a lot of light. 48 is very little light. You have to find something where you're comfortable with, so that you know that when you edit something and you print it, it looks the same. If you have way too much brightness in your monitor, it looks like you have a popping image and then you print it and it looks dull. If you have too low brightness in your monitor, you print it and it looks really bright and you go like, what's going on? So 130 actually works pretty well for me. The gamma you need, if you're a photographer, just leave it on 2.2. If you're a hardcore video editor for Ultra HD, what are you trying to shoot me? Anouk doesn't know how a camera works and I'm just getting shot by... In the back, you shoot me in the back. How could you? Anyway, so what's out with your wife? So for 2.4, that's what you use when you are hardcore video editing. But in this case, we're going to do photographer. Now here we have black points, relative or absolute 0. If you want to print, do absolute 0. Now sometimes if you know what you're doing, you can use relative. The difference is absolute 0, it goes to the 0 point of the monitor. It can't get blacker. It's the darkest. When you do the relative, it calculates, and this is technical, it calculates from the gamma curve. So it might end up at, for example, 888 or 999 or 101010. Most cases, just trust me, put it on absolute 0. Now you go to next. Okay, now this is also tricky. Leave everything the way it is, but only do this. Profile version, go to version 2. Don't use version 4. Version 4 is, it's better, but sometimes you get a difference between Lightroom and Photoshop. So you go from from Lightroom into Photoshop and you see a slight change in color. You go into alien skin exposure, you go into DxO film pack and you see a slight change of color. That's when you use the wrong profiling. Now the only thing you have to do is start measurement. Continue, prepare your sensor, we're ready. Start your engines, press continue. Place this in front and press continue. That's all, boys and girls. There's nothing more to it. This is the whole way that you calibrate your monitor. This takes a little while, and in between I'm going to answer some questions, and then I'm going to show you how to use the color checker in Lightroom really fast and why you should do it. Okay, let me see some questions. Ian of Lane McDonald. Frank, at what point did you realize you had succeeded in establishing your niche, and what is the first image you created to begin the journey? I never know that I actually found a niche. You know, tonight on YouTube, let me show you the address again for YouTube. And guys, please subscribe to this channel. We really put a lot of effort in it, so we really appreciate it if you subscribe, and it's free. When did you realize you found your niche? Tonight I have an interview with Aad Somerling, and he's a really great retoucher photographer, and he's absolutely awesome. And I always ask people that are in front of my camera for an interview, like, okay, Aad, what is in your opinion the way to be successful or the way to be famous? And they all answer differently, and I'm going to give you my answer, and it actually was exactly the same that Aad said. Don't aim for fame. Don't aim for earning money. Do something and do it with all your heart. Do it with passion. And that will actually reflect to people. I know many people that try very, very hard to be famous and that try to be better than somebody else. In the end, you know when you find your niche, if people start asking you, hey dude, can you do that for me? And I just go like, yeah, just... When somebody asks me what kind of work do you do, I normally always say I actually never work. Wait a minute, so the connection was severed. I hope we're still online, guys. Okay, it keeps going on and offline. I don't know, it's still recording, so I hope we're still online. You never know when you reach your niche. Just keep doing what you're doing, but do it with pride and do it with passion, and people will reflect on that and people start asking you, and as soon as you earn money from it, then you know you find your niche, and if you like what you do, you found it. Okay, not everybody, of course, has a BenQ monitor at home, so the photos will look different. Is there a mode so they will look good on any monitor? No, Johan. Educate your clients that they have a proper monitor. And if they don't, in the start of the program, I actually explained why you should calibrate, because people are used to seeing that image on their wrong monitor. So if you deliver something that's different, it will immediately note, hey, that's different. So make sure you always calibrate and use proper monitors. I use Pantone calibration for my monitor. Works as long as it's okay. My Color Monkey doesn't work with palette software. That's correct. Okay, let me see. I have some more things that I have to address. Oh yeah, that's one of the things. And I have to be honest, I don't use this a lot, but it is here. It was here. Where's the puck? Ah, there we go. This is one of the things that BenQ delivers with their monitors. It is a 4-level puck. Actually 3 levels, sorry. And you can switch very easily between sRGB and Adobe RGB. This is awesome if you have a lot of stuff that you deliver to clients, or if you deliver stuff to, for example, a printer. So you can create different profiles and switch very, very quickly between those profiles. It is great. It's a really cool tool. It's something, again, that I don't use a lot because I mostly teach workshops, and for me, well, you know, it works great. The other thing that I like about the BenQs is actually that you get this hood. And in our studio, it's pretty dark and we have controlled lighting, but still that hood is vital, because without the hood, you don't have arrow. I'm just kidding. Without the hood, you get scatter light on your screen, and there's nothing as irritating as seeing your images with a little bit of light hitting that screen. So here we always have LED panels on if I'm recording. Normally they're off and I'm in a really dark area here. They call it the bed cave, and I'm actually just having that hood over there. Another thing that's important for some of you guys is if you like to shoot in portrait mode, you can actually take the monitor and just tilt it over and do the whole stuff in portrait mode. So that also works. And of course it's a full 4K monitor. It does HDR, and does it do HDR? Yeah. Yes, it does HDR. And of course you can calibrate it hardware. Now I think because I'm actually also streaming, it takes a little bit longer. So I'm just gonna cancel this for now because I want to show you guys something else. But this is how easy the calibration is. Now normally it takes about, let's say 10 minutes and you're done. But for now I'm gonna cancel it. I'm gonna show you something in Lightroom really fast. Of course you all want to know how the color checker works, right? Because this is something that, Nadine, what's going on? This is what a lot of people ask me. Now, the color checker works really simple. Let me first start off by setting it like it's normally set up. So let's change this to Adobe Standard. There we go. So, okay. Normally what you do when you shoot something like this is you take your color picker, right, the color picker, and you make sure that you have neutral colors. There we go. This looks a little bit flat for my taste. Now with your color checker you actually get a profile creator. So you go to File, Export, and you go here to X-Write Color Checker Passport. And you just give it a name. Let's call it Sony. And the only thing you now have to do is press Export. Done. Nothing more. That's it. Now in the background it will start creating a profile. Now the weird thing is, I have to be honest with this, under the Mac this never worked. I always had to go externally. As soon as I had a file that was bigger than 24 megapixels, the whole system didn't work. So I had to go into DNG, I had to open up the software that was delivered with the color checker outside of Lightroom, create a profile which miraculously worked all the time, and then import that profile into Lightroom. Now sometimes it didn't work and I had to do this. I had to crop in, do it full frame, and then it worked. You saw me now, I didn't even crop. You saw that, right? I didn't even crop, I just did export and it worked. Now the only thing I have to do is close Lightroom, skip, and start Lightroom again. And this is the weird thing, a Mac is supposed to work flawlessly. And now that I switched back to the PC, I find out that these little things, now don't get me wrong, the Mac is awesome. It's very, very smooth. It doesn't have any hiccups. With the PC, I literally had nightmares getting everything to work smoothly. Now that it works smoothly, it works. But it was a lot more work than on a Mac. But this kind of stuff really wonders, why does this work on a PC flawlessly and I never got it to work on a Mac? But hey, who am I? Now what you do is you go into the develop mode, you go all the way down, and now you see Adobe Standard and you see Sony. Now watch this. Do the white balance, boom. Okay, let me zoom in for you guys very quickly so you can see what we're doing. Okay, I hope this translates back to YouTube. Go to Adobe Standard, boom, all my colors are gone. You see this, the blues? Doesn't look right. Now go to Sony, and there you go. Very important if you want those accurate colors. So use the color checker, use your light meter, but most of all make sure you have a proper monitor. This is the monitor where you do your editing on. Now some people ask me like, okay, I have the 27-inch monitor, should I go to the 4K 32-inch monitor? Yes, you should. But today, a few weeks ago, I still had some trouble. And the troubles were that there's something called, and forgot the name, HID or whatever. It's a high-res, let me put it this way, you have a 4K monitor and you have a program that's still programmed for a lower res monitor. So what you see here actually in Lightroom is that this is getting a little bit small. And this is still okay, but there are software packages out there where it's really small, especially on, let's say, a 16-inch monitor, like on the Wacom Mobile Studio Pro. When I start up Lightroom on the Wacom Mobile Studio Pro, I really have to dive in to get everything working. Now, Windows has released yesterday on April 11 the Windows Creators Update. In the Creators Update, you can now overwrite the way that software scales. This is a huge thing. Thank you so very much, Microsoft. Because now you can actually tell your computer, I'm using a 4K monitor. Don't show it on 4K, make it bigger. And now you can still use that 4K monitor, but this will look a lot bigger. Now I still have to install the Creators Update because I never install something before I switch on a camera for a live broadcast. So tomorrow we're gonna install the Creators Update. I already did it on the Wacom and it really works. You can now scale your interfaces. So really, really cool update. On Mac, it's easier because there you can scale it yourself. And of course on the Mac, well, there are other options. Okay, that's it for today. Now, again, why BenQ? I have to be honest, I'm of course a BenQ ambassador, so I love BenQ. There's also something else that works. And I became a BenQ ambassador for the very simple reason I met them on the photography show a few years ago, and I really liked their products. But most of all, I really liked that they told me, we think that the other manufacturers are doing great, but we want to do better. Now, for a lot of people who I talk to in the photography business, they go like, BenQ? We don't know BenQ. What's BenQ? Is that a new brand? No, we're going to go with the established brands. Don't forget that BenQ was maybe not active on the photography market, but if you look at the gamers market, there's actually, if you don't have a BenQ monitor, you're not going to win. Because BenQ is used by the world champions that game, because they have the fastest monitors. It's actually almost like cheating. And so BenQ has a really good, solid knowledge of how to build a monitor. The only thing they changed is they're now also going to aim for the professional photographers and at a really nice and comfortable price range. The other thing that I really like is this. You have a separate color analyzer. Now, before this, and I don't want to mention any names because the guys are awesome at that brand, but there's a monitor that actually has a color analyzer inside. Now, the same thing as with your color checker, you have to replace them every few years. That also goes for analyzers inside a monitor. And although nowadays they can work a lot longer, they are still prone to degeneration, whatever, you know what I mean, right? They get less accurate. So what do you do with your very expensive monitor with a built-in color analyzer if the color analyzer isn't perfect anymore? And of course they tell you, yeah, we correct this, but how can you correct this? Because you never know how much it will shift or drift. By using a system where you can still use the hardware of the monitor to calibrate, but you have a separate color analyzer, you can actually, after 2 or 3 years, go like, okay, I'm gonna destroy this color analyzer because it's not accurate anymore. I'm gonna buy a new one, and now actually you can calibrate your monitor like it's new. And you don't have to pay that money, because with the other brand, after a few years, you buy a next color analyzer and you don't use the one inside anymore. And I think that's a shame of the money. But hey, that's my opinion, right? Let me see. I have to translate this while I'm reading it. Hey Frank, to get the same color on your monitor and your printer, shouldn't you always calibrate the printer? And how many colors should the printer have to achieve this? Okay, you have to realize this. This is very important. You can never get it the same. Never, ever. It's impossible. You can get it as close as possible. And that's why you have to calibrate, use these color checkers, because in the whole chain, it's different. A printer is something that absorbs colors. A monitor is something that emits color. So if I'm looking at a screen here and I go like, whoo, that really pops, I print it out and Anouilh gives me the print and I hold it next to the monitor and go like, I like that one way better. This one is dull. Now I go outside and I take my laptop outside in the bright sun and I look at my screen of the laptop and go like, ugh, that looks terrible. Then I get my print and I go like, ooh, that's awesome, that's great. And that's because the light is hitting the print. X-Rite actually has these strips. If you put them on the back, and they will actually show 2 squares, I believe, 2 squares, if the lighting isn't correct, and one big part if the light is correct. So that works really good with customers who go like, your prints don't look right. Just give them one of those. So anyway, so yes, you have to calibrate them all. On the printer side, make sure that if you calibrate, that you do it on the paper that you're using. Now, workflow-wise, be sure that you don't use profiles intermixed. So your monitor has a profile, Adobe Photoshop has a profile, for example, Adobe RGB, ProPhoto RGB or sRGB, that's actually the color space where you put your image in, and your printer has a profile, and the printer profile is actually for the paper. So it's not for the inks, of course it's for the inks, but you know what I mean, right? It's for the paper. So for example, I use Epson and I use premium luster paper. So I use the profile for premium luster paper. If I switch to glossy, I actually use the glossy paper profile. Now when I switch to Hanemüller or whatever the name is, I use their profile. If they don't have a profile, I'm not going to buy the paper because I don't want to go through all the hassle of calibration. But actually I should. But in all honesty, we don't print a lot, which is a shame. I love prints. Let me see if there are more questions, then we'll do them. And otherwise, this is it. Thank you again. Every time I learn something. When is the next live broadcast? Well, actually, this is cool. Next week, we are in Orlando for Photoshop World. Photoshop World is absolutely stunning. It's amazing. We're going to do a lot of vlogs from there. You can expect almost a daily update from our video vlog. After that, we travel to New York with Nadine. And we have a workshop in New Jersey on April 30th. We still have some spaces left. So go to my website, frankdoorhof.com. And now it's in front of my face. What the? Let me switch that back. I'm important. There we go. So on the 30th, we have a workshop in New Jersey. We have 3 seats left. It's in the studio from Neil from Newkirk. Awesome studio, great location, inside and outside. And we're going to do Nadine styling over there and lighting and retouching and whatever. So it's going to be really cool. And then when we get back, the next digital classroom is, I believe, May 10th, right?
10th, yes.
With Sanne.
With Sanne.
And that's going to be small flash.
Yes.
So that's going to be small flash, and that's going to be really interesting again, because we're going to use flash benders, we're going to use the grids, we're going to use gels, maybe we're going to use smoke, because a lot of people want to see smoke. Are we going to use smoke?
I'm not sure.
If my throat is better, we're going to use smoke. Okay guys, if you have any questions, feel free to leave comments below. This is recorded, so this will be on our YouTube channel tonight. And of course, our vlog will be on our YouTube channel tonight. I have to edit that, and we have a great interview with Aad Somerling. So that's really cool to check out. Monitor-wise, really love the BenQs. And I don't want to promote it as you have to buy a BenQ, but the reason I'm editing this on a BenQ and I'm showing you this BenQ, I think should say more than enough. When I use it, I really love it. Otherwise, I won't use it. I will use a different brand. So BenQ, highly recommended. Really awesome. And we're going to give, oh, Anouk, you have one more thing?
Did you show the sweepstake? Sweep.
Did I show the sweepstake? What's the sweep? For Alaska. Yeah, we're going to do that one more time. Okay guys, my name is Frank Doorhof. Thank you so very much for watching. Thank you BenQ USA for making this all possible for you guys. And make sure you check out BenQ online and BenQ in the stores, and you just should check out BenQ. And of course check out X-Rite and my work online, and of course subscribe to our YouTube channel. We really appreciate it. Thank you so very much for watching guys. You've been awesome. We had a lot of questions. And furthermore, keep shooting. And thank you so very much for all the people helping us here. We have Steffi who came in, Daisy, ooh, they're sisters and they really look alike. So we have Daisy, we have Kim and a week. My son Brian helped out. And of course, Rosa, our beautiful model, and me. And of course, a big hand of applause to you guys for sticking with us for 2 full hours. Thank you so very much. Bye-bye, guys.